What is going on? So today I'm going to be showing you exactly how our clients, who are very busy nurses, are losing anywhere from 5 to 15 pounds in their first 4 weeks. They're doing this by using our SmithFit Metabolic Reset, which pulls our nurses and our healthcare workers, our burnt out moms, out of fight or flight so their body can respond appropriately to let go of the weight, to regain their energy, to feel their best, and make sure it's actually sustainable. So let's get into it. So, why you're struggling, and also why it's not your fault. So, if you're a nurse or caregiver over 35, you've probably experienced some of these, like skipping lunches because your unit's short-staffed, or running on caffeine instead of food, eating 1 to 2 times a day if you're lucky, because we just don't have a second to think for ourselves. Flipping from days to nights, wrecking your sleep, you're taking care of everybody else first, you're feeling inflamed, puffy, stuck, no matter what you try. So, your metabolism's not broke. There is fixing it, right? But it's just technically responding to your life and not the effort that's being put in. So that's why you can sometimes be doing the right things, eating healthy and moving more, but at this stage of our life, it's not going to do us any good. So you're just running like a hamster on a hamster wheel, getting nowhere but putting in all the effort. So most of the nurses and our moms that we help, they're chronically undereating. They're not overeating. So what happens when you chronically undereat is your body's completely out of whack. So when you're chronically undereating, plus stress, plus shift work and children or schooling or other stressors on top of that, it's going to slow down your metabolism. Your thyroid is going to be out of whack. Your hormones are going to be disrupted. Your constant water retention, feeling puffy. You're going to be having increased cortisol, loss of muscle, no hunger cues, which is why you're probably not hungry or you only eat 1 time a day and you still don't lose weight. Having broken sleep because your hormones, stubborn fat that will not move. So the crazy thing about this is the longer you're in fight or flight, the more your body adapts to it, which means the harder it's going to be to pull yourself out of it. So that's why, like I just said, eating less and moving more doesn't work at this stage of our life. Doesn't work for the occupation, for taking care of everybody else, for the responsibilities we have at this stage, right? So that's why 90% of our nurses, they need a reverse diet first. And before you can lose fat, your body has to feel safe. So that's why we pull you out of fight or flight by giving your body what it needs, slowly but surely. Because if we just completely flip flop it around, if we double your calories, it's not going to do you any good. You're going to feel overwhelmed, overstimulated, and go back right back to what you were doing before, what's comfortable, but not good for us, right? So reverse dieting, it actually restores your metabolism, hormones, your hunger signals, your energy, your mood, your sleep, your recovery, your inflammation levels. So why increasing food strategically, like I just mentioned, and not just all at once, it's vital for longevity and it's vital for keeping the weight off, right? So you know you're doing it right when you're able to like say that, holy moly, I'm eating so much more and I'm actually losing weight or I'm losing inches, I'm gaining energy. And how is this possible? Because when your stress is high and your food's low, your body's going to hang on to whatever it gets, no matter what, if it's healthy, no matter what. And when your stress drops and then your food increases, your metabolism wakes up. So like Melissa, who's in week 2, she's already feeling motivated. She's feeling a lot stronger. The morning cocktail that I'll get into is giving her the energy she needs for her 12-hour shifts. And then also low, she is buying scrubs that are smaller and that she's actually being able to fit in. The motivation and stuff that she sees in our SmithFit family is, driving her to become the best version of herself. But she loves having the tools and not having to figure out or doing the whole trial and error, the whole yo-yo process over and over again. She knows what works for her and her system and her reality, which is going to make the biggest difference. Another client, Sarah, she looked at her photos this morning and she's seeing a difference, not what she expected. Why? Because she expected herself to be bigger because of how much food she's been eating. And so she thought that this is the best decision she's ever made. And so glad that she's actually being able to heal her body first and experience all the benefits that follow. So we are able to do this because of our 4 pillars in our SmithFit Metabolic Reset. Okay, easy stuff that anybody could do, whether you have time, whether you don't, whether you have resources, whether you don't, whether you have a predictable schedule, whether you don't. So this is how we pull your body out of fight or flight because these are habits that make the world a difference. So the first thing is like what you saw one of our clients mention, the SmithFit Wired Up Morning Cocktail. Second thing is 10,000 steps a day, increasing your needs. So the movement, the calories you burn from moving with it, which isn't in the gym, makes up the majority of your calories. And then box breathing. So we're going to activate our parasympathetic nervous system so we can lower our cortisol so that way our body can feel safe to burn. So that way we can control our emotions, our hormones, our cravings, all this kind of stuff and be intentional. And then sleep tracking. So we want to shoot for 6 to 8 hours. It's not in everybody's cards, right? Sometimes we're helping moms who are working 2 night shifts, or they have children. It's a single mom. It's not always in the cards. Sometimes it's only 3 to 4 nights. So we have to work around that because that's their reality. So unless we figure out what works for you and your reality, it's always going to be a problem, right? If you keep on pointing fingers of why you can't get there, you will never get there. But as soon as you point back into you and see how can I actually get stronger to get through the situation to where it doesn't have to wreck me anymore, to where I can actually have some sense of control, some empowerment going through these non-ideal situations, that's when you will succeed, right? So you don't need to be perfect, but you do need consistency, right? That fits your life. That's a big one. So pillar one is the SmithFit Wired Up Morning Cocktail, like I said. It starts your day off with a metabolic on switch. So you go to bed, you're completely dehydrated, you wake up, you use the restroom, even more dehydrated. So what this does is immediately get your body with hydration, with electrolytes. It like rehydrates your cell, your brain. It's helps with like cortisol regulation, with adrenal health, with inflammation reduction. It is the name of the game. And immediately starting your day off with a bang and being able to create that sustainability. Okay, pulling your body out of fight or flight. It's quick, it's simple. Our clients feel the difference within little as 3 to 10 days, feeling less bloated, more energy, having less joint pain, being able to sleep better, being able to feel more present with who they are in their own skin. And so a client example is Ashley. She's a night shift nurse. She's a nurse educator and a mom on top of all that. She has 2 different jobs. She was dragging through her day. She was exercising when she could or felt motivated, which, as if you rely on motivation, or if you're a mom, or the lives that we live, it's not always going to happen. So within a week of adding the cocktails, her energy is stabilized, her mood is improving, and her bloating is beginning to drop. So her wins, just one weekend, she's already lost 2 pounds. She's getting rid of that all or nothing mentality to where she's living a life of balance that fits her very busy lifestyle, and drinking the morning cocktail too. So it's just the beginning. She's already crushing. I think she's down 7 pounds now, a couple weeks into our program. So it works. Pillar 2, 10,000 steps a day. Why 10,000 steps? An extra 10,000 steps is an extra 300 to 500 calories burned without adding extra inflammation, without adding extra impact, without this high intensity, high impact stuff that's going to be keeping your cortisol high and your body inflamed and stuck in fight or flight. So that's why these HIIT classes, that's why these boot camp classes, that's why all this stuff that's not made for you at this stage. You could be doing the right things, quote unquote, but not for this stage of your life. And so we don't want to rely on long workouts. We want to rely on natural movements to reset our metabolism. And so this is the name of the game in sustainable weight loss. So 10,000 steps a day, it lowers your cortisol, reduces inflammation, improves insulin sensitivity, especially if you time it at 10-minute walks after your meals. It burns fat without stressing the body, regulates your appetite, improves mood. And this is why our clients are losing fat even during the chaotic weeks, even when you can't make it to the gym, even when you miss your home workouts, even when you're skipping lunch, even when all this stuff happens. You have systems, you don't have a strict plan that throws you completely back to the starting line if you miss something. So pillar 3 is our box breathing. So this is our stress reset button. So this is, like I said, activating our parasympathetic nervous system, lowering our cortisol, and even just 1 minute of box breathing can pull your body out of fight or flight. It can reduce cravings, it can calm emotional eating, lower your cortisol, improve digestion, it can reduce water retention, it can prepare your body to absorb nutrients. It is key. Do it at least 1 time a day. We have our clients usually do it in the morning, and then also multiple times throughout the day if they need it, like after tough patients, before eating, before med passes, when overwhelmed, before bed. The more times you do it, the more times you're going to be lowering your cortisol and setting yourself up for better success in long term. A client example, so Nancy, she's a night shift RN or RT. She wasn't losing fat despite tracking her food, despite eating healthy, quote unquote, despite these 4-week challenges or these free programs or saving these TikTok recipes or workouts. That she was doing all the right things, and she was getting nowhere, feeling stuck, putting in all the effort, getting no reward, feeling very hopeless until we were actually able to do these simple but effective things to pull her out of fight or flight. She lost 20 pounds, and now her body is finally responding appropriately. Now she's set up for a proper maintenance phase that she can eat the foods that she wants, working out less than she did and eating more than she did. So the last pillar is sleep tracking. And like I mentioned, when possible, we work with a lot of women in menopause, a lot of women in perimenopause, a lot of hormonal or autoimmune diseases that we work with. And so or just like lack of time. So it's not always going to get checked off, but we can make sense of how your body's responding. Sleep is very important for hormone regulation and so many other levels of recovery. And so whenever you start, it's probably not going to be checked off as much. But as we're pulling your body out of fight or flight, we're going to be seeing that checked off more and more because your sleep is going to get deeper. You know, you're going to feel more rested. You're going to fall asleep faster, all this kind of stuff. And you can hit 6 to 8 hours more consistently whenever you are able to. We can see how your biofeedback responds by the end of the week to make sense of, you know, if we saw that less checked, then okay, well, we're holding on to a little bit more water retention, we're a little bit more inflamed. So after this week, you know, once we start to like regulate that, you know, maybe with some anti-inflammatory foods and making sure that we're getting in the other like recovery methods, then we'll be right back on track, right? So we can make sense of everything. We're not just guessing. Everything has a system to it. Everything is a science. Everything is very, very predictable, right? So poor sleep doesn't mean that you're failing. It just means your body's still in survival mode, and that's what we fix. So, client example, Rachel, she is a night shift RN with 2 different jobs. She has a 3-hour commute. She is a wife. She has children at home. She's getting, this is one of our clients that's getting, you know, 3 to, you know, 3.5, maybe 4 hours of sleep a night. That's her reality. That's what we got to deal with. So we have to work with that, mitigate the effects of, you know, poor sleep and of, you know, the hormones like the hunger hormones, ghrelin and stuff that'll come after that. So like we can fix that with our White Up morning cocktail, with our parasympathetic nervous activation, with, you know, steps, with being able to fix your sleep. So like she was super thankful. Like whenever she joined, she was very skeptical. She's tried a lot of other things in the past, seeing everybody else's wins, and she had for months she had this crazy brain fog, and now she's completely like clear headed, and she's able to like not have to just pass out in the middle of her night shifts, whether it's like 6 or 7 in a row. She doesn't have to rely on caffeine, simply because we're pulling her body out of fight or flight and allowing her body to feel safe to let go of the fat and get her energy back. And so biofeedback, like what your body is telling us. So we evaluate the progress based on your biology, right? Not just the scale. This is where like, I cannot stress enough. It is no guesswork. Everything is very, very predictable. Everything is very science backed. We can make sense of the body. That's why we work with nurses and women who are dealing with stuff, because we understand it. And so tracking hunger, energy levels, stress, sleep quality, digestion, craving, inflammation, water retention, you know, if you have any vacations, family dinners, events, you know, we're really big on your non-negotiables as well. Either stuff that you won't start or won't give up, because if we can get you to your goal around, you know, your needs, around your values, around your time, around eating the same family dinners together, it's not a plan you follow anymore, but it's a lifestyle, right? So it's not going anywhere. So this is exactly this is how we know exactly what adjustments to make. So if you had crazy weeks, double, sick kids, you know, poor sleep, vacations, whatever it is, of course you're going to hold on to a little bit more water. I just touched on that previously. It's not fats. You're not just going to gain a ton of fat overnight. It's inflammation, water retention. And so, like I said, once we can mitigate the effects of the how our body responded, then we can set ourselves up for a very, very good few weeks after that. So what a rough week actually means and why it's not failure. It's life. Life is going to happen. And you know, this is why we have systems that are built for the imperfections, for whenever life throws at us. Because if it's some super strict and rigid plan, guess what? Whenever life happens again, you know, I'm doing good, and then like life happens, you're back to where you started because you had no systems in play. You're blindly following a plan that didn't fit you or your needs or your family or your job or your traveling or nothing like that, right? So if you have systems in play, that's where walking on eggshells and feeling like, am I going to be motivated this week, or how long am I going to follow through this time, completely disappears, right? You can feel present in your own skin. You can feel control. That is what the goal is, to not have to rely on anybody else to be healthy or happy or present. And so if you're not hitting your sleep, if your steps drop, if your stress spikes, you know, we expect water retention, scale fluctuations, cravings, lower energy. And it makes complete sense biologically, right? It's no guesswork. And so your results aren't ruined, your body's just adapting. And so lifelong results come from systems, not perfect plans. Weight loss means nothing, absolutely nothing, as you've probably seen yourself, because you may have been guilty of the yo-yo process, losing weight with these fads or these pills or injections, and no systems are in place. So it's just treating symptoms, but not the actual problem. You end up right back where you started, right? So, weight loss means nothing without the mental and emotional shift. Like I told you, that freeing feeling, that liberating feeling when you are in control, right? You have full control. You are empowered to that higher version of yourself to where you have control. And then so after all this stuff, once we pull your body out of the fight or flight and we're increasing your calories intentionally and we get you to a proper like spot to where we could do a cutting phase, then that's when fat loss becomes easy because you've already had more muscle mass, which burns more fat at rest and when you sleep. And you already have more energy and your calories are already high, so we don't have to just hack them down even more like to where we started eating 900, 1100, 1400 calories. Like we build you up so that way you can be at a proper cutting phase and then be at a maintenance phase. So that way you can enjoy the foods that you want while eating more, losing weights, and feeling your best. And so when fat loss finally becomes easy, so after your metabolism is healed, then we lower the calories. And so fat loss becomes, again, predictable, steady, it's stable, it's sustainable, it's less emotional, it's less stressful, it's physically easier. And so your body can finally let go of the fat because it no longer feels unsafe, right? So an example is Regina, completely guilty of the yo-yo process and single mom in healthcare, a lot of stress and a lot of inconsistency in her schedule, which added, of course, to like her high cortisol. So once we pulled her out of fight or flight and restored her metabolism, she finally started to lose fat, even on busy weeks, while eating more than she ever had. And now she's down over 60 pounds. We healed her relationship with food. She has the most confidence and energy. She feels better than now at 54 than she did at 30 because we did things intentionally built for her specifically. And so before and after this reset. So before eating 1 to 2 meals a day, if you're lucky, like I said, stuck at the same way, constant inflammation, you're having broken sleep, high stress, you're low energy, mood swings, belly fat that won't move, feeling like nothing works, feeling hopeless, right? Tried it all, nothing works for me, I'm broken, we're pointing out. As soon as you point in, figure out how to fix it for your reality. Like I said, your non-negotiables, your values, the time that you do or don't have, the resources you do or don't have, the consistent inconsistency. Once you figure out your systems, then you're able to eat more without guilt. You have consistent energy, less inflammation, improved sleep, hunger signals are restored, you have a stable mood, your steps become natural, fat loss becomes predictable, and identity and confidence return. You are in full control. So the point of what we do is getting our clients to a point to where they know exactly what they did and how they got there. So they have these systems in play whenever they're on their own in the future and life happens, it doesn't knock them down anymore. They have these systems in place. They can have a plan B, C, or D in place, or they can make compromises instead of sacrifices. They can live a life of balance, and they can no longer feel like they're walking on eggshells. That is what we do for our clients. We get them to that stage so they don't need another plan and be guilty of trainers and pills and injections and this cycle of constant starting over, right? And it's not a diet, it's a lifelong system made for you. Every single approach is different depending on, again, who you are, what you value, what you won't start, what you won't give up. So that way we can make sure that this is something that it can fit around your families and your values, and it can make sure that like you can actually become in tune with who you are at this stage of your life. And then it's something that you can just continue to build on long after we're gone. We're no longer covering up the problem or sweeping it under the rug. We are starting from scratch, from the inside out, building a rock solid foundation that you just continue to stack after we're gone. You eventually teach others, lead your family by example. Like show your kids that they just witnessed you become the best version of yourself, and now you're the best mom. So it is so powerful. That is literally exactly why we do this. And so why this Metabolic Reset works for nurses and when nothing else has, like I just mentioned, because there's no strict eating windows, right? There's no like hard, crazy, restrictive, all in, all out, like all or nothing mentality going in here. You leave that out there. We help you overcome that. And if there's food trauma, if there's like an emotional attachment to food or binge eating disorders or whatever it is, like we help you identify that. It goes so much deeper than just a diet plan or a workout plan. Those are symptom treating things because once they end, what happens? You go for the next one and the next one. How about you learn actually how to like be in control of what's going to be changing for you and like what's going to be you're going to be constantly seeing, because that's how you have that full control, right? And so when nothing else works, we get you that state. And so there's no required meal timing, especially when nurses and healthcare workers were forced to skip meals and breaks and lunches, and we're constantly understaffed. Nurses can't do that. There's no starvation diets. There's no 90-minute workouts. We work with what you have, even if it's 5-10 minutes at home. There's no guilt for missing sleep. We're built around your shift work. We're designed for caregivers who put themselves last. You're always putting everybody else first. And then we've justified ourselves in that position. So once you realize that you can still pour back into your own cup and put your own health first without sacrificing giving to your loved ones, that's where the real freedom comes in. And then we reverse diet pretty much almost everybody that comes in, because that's usually what we deal with. Not the overeating who need help with like a diet. It's the people who are stuck in fight or flight, the people who are constantly inflamed, who are doing all the right things, but just doing it for a different reality, right? And so that's what we do, is we help you figure out your specific reality. And so we heal your stress physiology first, and then guess what happens after that? Fat loss follows second. Okay, so real client wins, a little micro wins right here. So Lex lost 70 pounds. She got off of Ozempic. She was eating 900 calories when she came with us, and we slowly worked her up to about like 2,800, and she lost weight, right? And then we set up for a cut phase, and I think she ended around like 22, 24. Lost 70 pounds. She's more energized than ever, more confident. Her metabolism restored. And she has these staples in place that she's still using today. So proud of her. Cynthia, a single mom of two, she regained her energy. She was going through a big move. She had a lot of stressors, consistent inconsistency that she dealt with. She always had a hard time finding a plan that fit her and her kids' needs, because she's always putting them first, and it's just her. And so having to play both roles and still try to put herself first, like she never had the opportunity to even think about how that could even happen. And so that's exactly what we did, is we took that stress and the pressure and the overwhelm off of her, so that way she can become the best version of herself. And now she's down 20 pounds. She's more toned. She's getting rid of the mom pooch. She's more productive at work, at home. She feels and looks her best, and she's still continuing to lose weight, even from the comfort of her own home, because of the systems that we help her build. And then Sarah, a night shift CNA, who had sleep and stress issues, who had this, always dealt with weight her whole entire life, always dealt with insecurities, and has been guilty of like the fad diets, keto, cutting out carbs, all this kind of stuff, just doing constant back and forth. And then so her food trauma that we helped her fix and constant yo-yo process is finally in the past. She's down over 100 pounds, and she's still going. She's probably down at least like 150 now. But she has these staples in place. She has these foundations in place that she's still using. And being Polynesian and stuff, like there's a lot of rice, there's a lot of cookouts, there's a lot of family gatherings. And so she's still able to do that and enjoy her non-negotiables, her culture. And so that's what it's all about. That's where you feel that real freedom. And these aren't quick fixes. These are permanent transformations. So the next steps, if this sounds like your story and you're ready to break out of the fight or flight, if you're ready to stop trying these quick fixes and to stop treating symptoms and to actually get to the root cause and do this one more time the right way, to feel your best and just be able to be confident that you can do this on your own for life, lead your family by example, then book your free metabolic breakthrough call with me by clicking the link below. If you just click this, you'll fill out a little form, and then if we're a right fit, we'll reach out to you and we'll go ahead and book the call. Or you could just go ahead and DM me FitMed on Instagram, and I'll personally kind of walk you through a little bit more about like how your specific situation would get. But you can go ahead and click this link to message me. But guys, this is it. You have two choices basically: to continue trial and erring and figuring out and trying to fit a square hole into like a circle peg, like trying to do what works for somebody else and just ending up in the exact same spot that you started, or you can learn what works for you and your reality. You could become in tune with who you are now at this stage of your life and do what works for you and your values and your time. So the choice is yours. I hope this helped, and I hope to see you soon.